on this computer. Hello, we're recording. And let me see, where is our YouTube? It's curious. It's still preparing to live stream the meeting. Oh, maybe, gosh, I know now it's like almost midnight. And I'm not sure if YouTube has some like maintenance, hopefully not. Sounds like a little bit timing out because I can see that the bar of preparing to live stream the meeting, it's not really moving. So I'm not sure what's wrong with either YouTube or like Zoom's live streaming thing has some issue. Gosh, I think we are now 24 hours kind of like international operations, international internet. It's still like timeout. Okay, maybe tonight this go live thing is not working, but it's thank God like Zoom can do the local one. So there's very interesting. Always have some like issue, right? Another day after big rain, the internet connection is not very stable. So the audio, video quality is not so good. And now it's a live stream thing. So I know technology, right? It's so advanced now. We have AI, everything, but you can always have such kind of like glitches, right? Of technology. Always have some, could have some troubles. And especially if you rely on them more and more, and one day you may get, you may find that we could not rely on them. Okay, maybe forget about YouTube live tonight. We just record onto my computer. So we continue. Okay, let's continue. On this book, fifth book, Oprah Winfrey, The Wisdom of Sundays, Life-Changing Insights from Super Soul Conversations. This is one of Oprah Winfrey's #1 New York Times bestseller. And we are on the last chapter, chapter 10, Love and Connection. This is one of my favorite. Let me see. Okay, so YouTube, that's fine. Let's get back to Zoom. I will upload to YouTube later. So Oprah said, I believe 3 of the most important words anyone can say are not I love you, but I hear you. Very interesting, right? Do you agree that? That's part of like I hear you is part of the I love you, I hope. Let's see. At this moment in our history, there is a painful divide separating the human experience. As I grow more deeply in my spiritual practice, I know the common thread we all share is a mutual desire for connection and contentment. It is up to each one of us to begin the work to renew and repair that bond. I like to visualize the communication in any relationship as a dance. One person takes a step forward and the other steps back. 2 energies moving in harmony, aligned and united, until there is a misstep or a break in the connection. If the breakdown is not addressed and corrected in the moment, both people went up in a tangle of confusing. When spiritual teacher Adashanti joined me on Super Soul Sunday, he described that rhythm we create between one another as the intuitive presence in one soul, recognizing the intuitive presence in another. His lesson is that every day, in every moment, our energy is seeking a way to connect with every other energy we encounter. And when we feel that, it means that we have fully aligned presence to the source that exists in us all. Everything we do, every relationship we have, succeeds or fails based on our level of true spiritual connection. That's true, especially like in a loving relationship, the spiritual connection, it's really like soul connection, right? Like people always say that soulmate. If you lose that soulmating, that kind of spiritual connection, there's no soulmating. So that relationship, any like loving relationship and even marriage, family, right, all sacrifice. So how do we get back in step when we find ourselves disconnected and retreating to separate corners of the dance floor? I have to admit that I am now in that kind of situation. You know, the dance is not, it's like just like in that breakdown. I have learned over the years that the most effective method to find a common ground is to approach the person with heartfelt compassion and ask, what is it that you really want? If you allow them the quiet space to respond authentically, most people will often answer with a variation of the same idea. I want to know that you value me. This is a great let me underline it. I want to know that you value me. Even though they will not ask that verbally, everybody inside of them, right? Like opposite variation of the same idea. I want to know that you value me, you respect me, you admire me, right? You really value me. By fully embracing the spiritual principle that what we focus on expands, what we focus on expands. You will discover that giving your full, uninterrupted attention to one person can change the intensity with which that person shines their light on another, and so on, and so on, and so on. The power of connective energy was most profoundly explained to me by Harvard brain scientist Dr. Jill Taylor. After suffering a devastating hemorrhagic stroke, the function of the left hemisphere of Jill's brain was wiped out. The right hemisphere, which focuses only on the present moment, remained intact. With no memory or language recognition, Jill became acutely aware of the energy surrounding her. As doctors, nurses, and visitors entered her hospital room, Jill determined that there were only two types of people in the world: those who bring energy and those who drain it away. The request Jill made of every person who came in contact with her throughout her recovery resonated so deeply with me. I posted in the makeup room where I meet with producers before every shoot. Please take responsibility for the energy you bring into this space. I love that. I need to send this to my daughter. She's like, during the dinner time, as usual, right? She now has a pattern, like during that time is her time to release, to just like release her whatever. Quite sometimes like an activity or energy is not so high. She has quite a moody trend, and she released that during our dinner time. So that's definitely not good. And today I really told her she need to take her full responsibility. Even though we would like to listen to her, if she would not like to clarify to us, we don't know what she's struggling with, right? Or what she's moody for. And so I would just send these words to her. Please take responsibility for the energy you bring into this space, especially into the family dinner. That's very important, right? I realized that for every relationship, not only do I have to be accountable for the energy I bring, but I also have to take responsibility for the energy that I allow from others, okay? Responsibility for the energy that I allow for others. It says, today I did not allow my daughter to bring that negative energy again into our dinner table. So I know that she wants to be heard more, but I also told her that she need to also respect other people's habits. She said, oh, I have this habit. Why don't you know this? Every day she's complaining now, right? No matter how we treat her, how we try to like please her, but she's always complaining that sometimes. So I told her today, it's exactly here. I'm also taking a responsibility for the energy that I allow from others. I just don't allow her just to drain my energy anymore. I told her I cannot accept that anymore. So I understand that strengthening the bond in any situation is impossible if you are not surrounded by energy that lifts you up. So let's see. I definitely love this message. Now, let's expand that idea to be greater good of the world around us. As a Holocaust survivor, Nobel Peace Prize winner, and best-selling author Ali Weissel so beautifully explained to me, the opposite of love is not hate, but indifference. That's true. The opposite of love is not hate, but indifference. Hate actually is another strong emotion, but indifference is the worst, really, because there's no like emotion. You don't care anymore. So that's a worse situation. Annie often said his favorite Bible verses was from Leviticus. Thou shalt not stand idly by. We know humanity is in need of the healing power that comes from love in all its forms. Use your life to serve the world, and you will discover the myriad ways the world offers itself to serve you. Only we hold the power to transform our collective consciousness. As a spirit dwelling in every evolving human experience, I know that I'm not better or worse than any other being. I simply am. You simply are. We are connected. That's lovely by Oprah Winfrey. Now the next one from Dr. Joe Bottle Taylor. Let me see. Joe Bolt Taylor. Oprah asked, so was the entire left hemisphere bleeding? Dr. Joe said, mine, yes. It started relatively small, deep inside, but it was a hemorrhage. So it got bigger and bigger over the course of the morning. Oprah asked, and the left hemisphere does what for us? Joe said, it's our language. It's our ability to think sequentially, to think methodically, to think linearly, to be able to know A plus B equals C. That's logic, right? It's our ability to communicate with the external world. Super, super important. The left hemisphere. Oprah said, and the right hemisphere is the big picture. Joe said the right hemisphere is the big picture, all the information. It gives us the context of everything. It's our intuition, our witness or observer. It's our ability to experience peace, deep inner peace. So I remember the right one is for our creativity, arts. So the two hemispheres are very different in their function, Oprah said, and their entire left hemisphere went quiet. Joe said, yes, it went totally silent. Oprah said, which means you lost your ego, your language, your ego. Joe said, I lost my ego. I was essentially an infant in a woman's body. And I didn't have any of her recollections of her life. Wow. You forgot your life. You forgot what every nurse, you always like the education system taught you. Whoa. Oprah said, so what did exist then? You lost the ego, you lost the sense of I am and your sense of context. I am a PhD at Harvard. I am. Joe said I wasn't any of that anymore. Wow. Imagine that as a PhD from Harvard. She did not even have the language. But I'm glad now we are reading this. That means she has already recovered. Thank God. Okay. Joe said I wasn't any of that anymore. Oprah said, but what you had, though, was a sense of oneness and a sense of peace. Oh my God, this is what kind of experiment? You can really not repeat that in the lab, right? So the right one, sense of oneness and sense of peace, and the sense of connection to humanity in a way that you never had before, because all of that other stuff had been parted. Now I think all my, for example, Chinese people, fellows, they're so logical. So that means their left, hemisphere is so strong, but the right one is not so strong. So Joe said exactly, when I look at people who have had any kind of a trauma, I ask, what have they gained? What I gained was this incredible knowingness of deep inner peace and excitement of realizing everything was interconnected. That means she gained like a simple, pure joy, right? Without ego. Sounds like great, right? Just like a baby. And I lost the boundary of my body. And so I felt that I was enormous, as big as the universe. Oh, you have no limitation. Because I no longer defined that this is where I began and this is where I ended. So there's no logic things. So there's no limitation as well. Wow, it's like that kind of feeling of oneness and the universe. That's amazing, actually. Nobody makes it out here alone. What really matters now is love. I mean, That condition in the human spirit that is so profound, it allows us to rise. Strength, love, courage, love, kindness, love. That is really what matters. There has always been evil and there will always be evil, but there has always been good and there is good now. Dr. Maya Angelou. Next from Sister Joanne, I think it's Joanne. Chittister, okay, Joanne Chittister. I was about 12 and we came home and my little parakeet was gone. What is parakeet? I was wondering. I was an only child. This may have seemed strange to people, but that little bird was my companion. I didn't go home to playmates. I went home to Billy, right? And Billy's own is now missing. Parakeet, the name is Billy, it's missing. Okay, my father moved every piece of furniture in that apartment. My mother looked under every chair. The company came, and then family went to bed, okay? But my heart was breaking, and I got into bed and I put my face down in the pillow and I sobbed. I knew I had to be quiet. I couldn't disturb anybody, but I was crying, my little body heaving. And the next thing I knew was I felt somebody on the floor beside me, and then an arm on my back. And I realized it was my mother. And then I felt somebody on the floor on the other side, and I realized it was my father, and they had their arms around me like this, saying, "That's all right, darling, that's all right. We understand, that's all right." And as I look back over the years, that's when I learned that humanity is about identifying with somebody else's pain, with being there. Identifying with somebody else's pain, with being there. That's humanity. With somehow or other knowing that you cannot pass on the road because it's not your bird, and it's not your child, and it's not your pain. Humanity is the ability to hurt for the others, because that's the only fuel that will stop the injustice. You must know people as people, and you must do what they need in the middle of their pain. It's like do from other people's angle. Who's flamingo? I was wondering, those birds here, are those flamingo? You can see it. Not really clear, not flamingo, just some seabirds. Next one, thick that hat. Thick, let's say, thick that hand. The first mantra is, darling, I'm here for you. When you love someone, the best thing you can offer him or her is your presence. That's true. When you love someone, the best thing you can offer him or her is your presence. I just pray that my daughter, especially my daughter and my kids, my son is now so quite appreciative. And my daughter, she's like always in that kind of like trauma, kind of like pity, missing. It's like when I separated from her dad, she's like feel like that family trauma, and she's like missing a lot. So I just pray that she could appreciate my presence for her, presence every day for her. And that could console her. I know it's still not enough. And I also pray that God could be here to be present, so could complete her world. How can you love if you are not there? You offer him or her your true presence. You are not preoccupied with the past or the future, your projects. You are for your beloved one. The second mantra is, darling, I know you are there, and I am so happy because you are truly there. You recognize the presence of your beloved one as something very precious, and use your mindfulness to recognize that. Embrace your beloved one with mindfulness, and she will bloom like a flower. And mindfulness, and she will bloom like a flower. That's what I pray for my daughter. She would bloom like a flower, and she would fully appreciate her youth and her bloom. To be loved means to be recognized as existing, and these two mantras can bring happiness right away. The third mantra is what you practice when your beloved one suffers. Darling, I know you suffer. That is why I'm here for you. Okay, so let me circle this sentence. The first one is like, darling, I'm here for you. Next one is that, darling, I know you are there and I'm so happy because you are truly there. Okay, before you do something to help her, to help him, your presence already can bring some relief. And the fourth mantra is a little bit more difficult. You use it when you suffer. If you believe that your suffering has been caused by your beloved one, you suffer so deeply, and you prefer to go to your room and close the door and suffer alone. You want to punish him or her for having made you suffer. The mantra is, darling, I suffered. I am trying my best to practice. Please help me. Actually, that's what I want to say to my daughter. I told her, help me to understand you. Help me to clarify it, whatever you are suffering from. Clarify it so I could understand. I need help. So far, has not fully worked yet, but I just pray. I need to be more present. I will try to be even more present, and to let her feel that I love her. You go to him, you go to her, and practice that. And if you can bring yourself to say that mantra, you suffer less right away. I feel like the best mantra is actual prayer to God, prayer, the presence, and prayer for the energy, prayer for the fever, prayer for the bonding, for the love, for the connection. Next one is Gary Rukoff and Linda Francis. Oprah asked, Gary, this is your wife, Linda Francis, whom you call your spiritual partner. A spiritual partnership is Gary Rukoff and Linda, they said, a partnership between equals with the purpose of spiritual growth. Okay, a partnership between equals with the purpose of spiritual growth. Okay, the spiritual partnership means spiritual purpose equals with the purpose of spiritual growth. Okay, Oprah said, how do we use a spiritual partnership to create authentic power? Gary said, creating authentic power is the reason that a spiritual partnership happens. In other words, Linda and I are spiritual partners. I'm committed to my spiritual growth, to creating authentic power. Linda is committed to her spiritual growth. I can't create it for her. She can't create it for me, but I can support her and she can support me. And as you begin to become someone who is more interested in becoming emotionally aware and taking responsibility for what you create than in blaming other people, you draw other people to you who are doing the same. Linda said, I've had many attractions in my life where I'm attracted to someone, but I felt that was really from fear-based parts of my personality that wanted to find someone who would complete me. How many of us feel that, right? When you feel alone, when you feel like incomplete, you just want to find another one, someone else to complete you, to fill you. Oprah said, yes, I actually said this to Tom Cruise a long time ago, that line in Jerry Maguire, you complete me, right? That's quite like a cliche, kind of a classic saying, you complete me. Really messed a lot of people up. There wasn't a dry eye in the movie theater, and all the women went, oh, she completes him, when in fact, no one completes you. Yeah, that's like so many people misled, right? And especially ladies by the Jerry Maguire. Maguire, yeah. And watch that movie. I also watched that. Now I could not really exactly remember what I watched, but it's just like everybody was so touched to feel like, oh, she completes you and feel that love, right? That's the only love they feel like it's ideal. Linda said, no, there is no way I couldn't be in a relationship, a spiritual partnership with Gary, had I not done the work that I had done on myself, because I really got it. I created a life where I was the right person and changed myself rather than trying to find someone to complete me, which really changed everything. And I know I would have never met Gary had I not done that work. If you want that kind of like the spiritual partnership, it's great high level of love, right? You need first to work on you. Get down with yourself. Oprah said, I think that's so powerful. What you just said resonates with me, and I know it will for many other people. The reason I'm emphasizing it is so you can really hear it. That instead of looking for the right person, work to make yourself the right person. And the right person will then be drawn to you based upon the work that you've done for yourself. That's what I hear you say. That's a true law of attraction, right? If you want to attract something great, you need to work first on yourself to become greater. Okay. In that sense, that's exactly right. Oprah said, the definition is so, for me, clear and poignant. A spiritual partnership is a partnership between equals for the purpose of spiritual growth. Okay, now I see. A partnership between equals with the purpose of spiritual growth. Now let me highlight this here. Oprah Winfrey said a spiritual partnership is a partnership between equals for the purpose of spiritual growth. What do you mean by equals? Equals, okay? Your energy should be like equal. Gary said, if you look at the people around you, some of them are stronger, some of them are weaker, some of them can draw, some of them can write, some of them are wonderful mothers, and others are wonderful carpenters. All of the inequality that you see are all characteristics of a personality. So when you connect with somebody and you feel equal, that is a soul-to-soul connection. When you feel equal, it's a soul-to-soul connection. Personalities are not equal. I love that saying, actually. Super important. So many people, they separate. It was, oh, we could not like comply to each other. Like we have different characteristics. Or like you say, we have different personalities. And it's right if you have different personalities. Otherwise, it's just like, and people say, okay, our personalities are so different, our interests are so different, we could not comply to each other. But actually, really, personality should be different, and what really should be equal is your spirituality, your soul-to-soul connection. Oprah said, got you. Personalities are not equal, souls are. That's true. Gary said, correct. Equality is understanding that there is nothing and no one in the universe more important than you, and there is nothing and no one in the universe less important than you. Now, here's the thing that equality can teach you. If you don't feel equal, you are going to feel either superior or inferior. That's exactly true. In my previous relationship, I feel like at least he made me feel like I am inferior to him. And that's where he wants to dominate. And that's where eventually when I grow, my soul power, right, becomes stronger and stronger. And that's where we get to that gap, and really that gap. And both superiority and inferiority are experiences of parts of the personality that originate in fear. It's not possible to enter a spiritual partnership as an equal except soul to soul. If you're not equal, then you are feeling superior or inferior. And if you are feeling one of those, then you know what that a frightened part of you, your personality is active. So when I'm with Linda, for example, or with anyone that I'm a spiritual partner with, I try to use emotional awareness and say, am I feeling inferior? Am I trying to please? Am I distorting who I am because I want something from somebody, even if it's just their smile? Or am I feeling superior and entitled and I don't care? It's definitely, I felt like the first one, inferior. It makes me feel like inferior. I'm, for example, a nader, I'm not making enough money, and he's a man, I'm a woman, I'm a mom, I should take care of kids, I should stay at home to take care of all this kind of like chores, and because that's my responsibility. And in his words, it's just like men and women have different responsibilities. Sounds like reasonable, but at the same time also makes me feel like inferior. And he will always use money to make me feel inferior because he's providing more money. And in the previous relationship, when I even made more money than him, I felt like because I pursued him, I showed more love, right, more passion and love to him. And he also made me like feel inferior because I had to always to be chase him, please him, like worship him, that kind of feeling. I'm spoiled, right? Got him spoiled. Okay, do what you want. Here's who I am. But there's no connection. Either one of those is a frightened part of my personality. That's true. And I know that I want to challenge it. I had that kind of frightened myself because I was worried. I had no security. I felt like if I do not please him, I will lose him. That kind of a feeling. It's definitely not good. And now I feel like even this kind of separation is actually doing me good. Sounds like outside is not so good, right? It's like definitely not so good in this kind of middle age marriage, and we separated for so long time, years. And but it made me feel like I complete myself. I do not need to be frightened and had to please another, had to earn or win his love back. That's definitely not an equal, right? So that's eventually, that's why the universe will help balance the energy. Initially it's not equal, and then eventually it break up to get equal now. Even though the price by sacrifice is get separated. Megan, good. I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood. We were one of two Black families, so I always had kind of underlying issues with acceptance, and I just wanted someone to see what I already know, which is that you are enough just the way you are, and the only people that have ever said that really have been my mother, my mom, or my sister, but we are blood. I needed someone else, if they were coming into my life and being a part of my life for the rest of my life, to love me just this way. And so a lot of that healing has come in marriage for sure. Devon Franklin has been infallibly nurturing and helping remind me of when someone says something bad about him, he lets it roll off his back. I used to cry about it for like a week, and my feelings would be so hurt, and the healing that he's brought in, even that area alone, it just reminds me of who God is. Because even if someone else told me that, I couldn't receive it the way that I receive it because of the respect I have for him. Okay, so I want to actually end here. Let me see how many more is for the last one. Okay, so I want to save the second part for tomorrow. So we just finish here. Let me quickly see what will be our highlight today. I want to, actually I already got my highlights from today. I make some mark. I always make some marks. So when I go to Instagram, I could quickly get to that part. Okay, so this is definitely great for today. Thank you for sharing this journey. And the only pity is like the YouTube live stream is not working, but we have the recording on my computer. So lovely. Today is 122. And let's continue this tomorrow. Okay, everyone, take good care. Enjoy the rest of your, have a good night of a Tuesday. See you tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.